Hey everyone, it's Scott Hansen from NFL Red Zone reminding you to watch Sports Ballers, the podcast that gets you caught up on everything Washington sports and beyond.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of the Sports Ballers podcast. I'm Evan Esch, joined as always by the Hall of Famer Corey Puffett and Eric Meyer. So there's only really one question that's worth asking to start off the show. Not how y'all are doing, but how about demos, hon?
How about them Yankees?
Ayers Han, 2 out of 3.
Yeah, it's the O's, and I'm hosting this week. So I took off of work yesterday, came home, watched the Orioles opening day game. It was nice not to be in freezing cold Boston. So the Orioles scored a bunch of runs, stole a bunch of bases, got a lot of hits, but then so did the Red Sox too. So it was a bit of a track meet of a game.
Yeah, your guys' game took too long. 3 hours and 10 minutes. Good God. It's like the second longest game of the day.
Yeah, it took forever. Let's see. So let's just we say a lot of bad stuff about Kyle Gibson, who's okay, I guess. 5 innings, 6 hits, 3 or 4 earned runs, a walk, 3 strikeouts. He was the winning pitcher yesterday. He pitched better than I thought. But
he ate that W. That's all that matters.
Yeah, he won.
He's 1-0. He's a perfect pitcher this year.
Mm-hmm.
Tied for the best pitcher in all of baseball. He could be a Cy Young winner.
I mean, he could if Rick Porcello won, and the Orioles score 10 runs every game.
Yeah, and if he gets his ERA down under whatever it is now, like 8 or whatever
I think
it
it's
is.
7.2.
There you go.
Yeah, I guess we're starting here. Like, we're just going to
Where else would we start?
Well, baseball's kind of the meat and potatoes of the show this week because it's opening weekend, or opening day was yesterday, but you're running the show, so we'll talk about Ayers a little bit first. I went into this game obviously excited just to see baseball again, and then around the 5th inning, I was like, this is nice. We're kicking the crap out of somebody. We didn't even do that last year when we won more than we thought we would. I was like, okay, it's 8-2. This is great. And then started having those moments that had Evan and I saying multiple times last year where we just muttered, this dumb team. And here we are again, watching Anthony Santander misplay multiple balls in the outfield. Yes. Watching, I think Austin Hayes had a misplay. Cedric Mullins didn't have his best day in the outfield. The outfield defense was a debacle yesterday for the Orioles. The pitching did not do well. We talked a little bit on here about concerns about regression of some of the bullpen guys like Brian Baker, who was terrible yesterday.
Yes.
And a guy on the team who probably shouldn't even have a roster spot, committing 2 toot blands in the game.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Adley Rutschman. That guy is going to have to prove that he deserves to be on the roster.
Send him down to Double-A.
I mean, 5 for 5, who cares, right?
And a home run.
And a home run and 4 RBIs and a walk.
And a walk, yeah. 6 times on base and 6 plate appearances.
I'm also
for me.
I'm also glad. I don't remember who Boston's second baseman was. Is it Cassis? I don't know who plays second base for them.
No idea.
Yeah, I'm just glad that he didn't suffer severe injury, or else Red Sox Nation would hate Adley forever, like they hate Manny. Because as Adley was crash landing into second base, he inadvertently kicked the second baseman in the side of the head. And I was like, oh, that could have been dangerous for both parties. I'm glad both guys are getting up after that. So.
How was the second baseman's head anywhere in Adley's, his foot's path on the way into?
Adley did a belly flop, and did a spinning swivel kick looking thing.
I'm gonna need
somehow.
to see this replay.
There's plenty of gifs of it. I'm sure I could find it for you. But it was quite something. But other than that, obviously Adley was great. Pretty much everybody at the plate had a good day except for Hayes. Seems to be a recurring thing. But Yeah, just this sort of was the frustration, though, that we talked about where, and I'm going to do this, and this is going to seem mean and unnecessary and, like I'm being a jackass here because I'm belaboring this point, but this is what happens when you DH a plus defender because you have nowhere else to put Ramon Urias. You have to play him in the field in order to justify him being on the team. Now, Urias hit a 2-run home run yesterday, so he certainly justified his spot in the lineup, but the issue is, like, with Urias, he has to play third, and that's Gunner's spot. So if Gunner's going to be in the lineup, he has to DH, which means somebody who's worse at defense than Gunner is going to be in the field, and that someone is Anthony Santander. And this is where we have a little bit of an issue with the Orioles, where you've got good players at the top of the roster, and you can tolerate mediocrity on your roster. Like, it's not like every single player on the Dodgers or the Astros is good, but if you're going to be a sort of role player, if you will, like a secondary guy on the team, you have to be flexible, right? Like, Kike Hernandez isn't a star, but he can play anywhere.
So what position is Santander playing?
He plays the outfield, but he should be DHing.
Right. So that was my next question was, so you put Gunner at third, you put Santander at DH. Do you guys have another outfielder where you would say that defensive alignment and that batting lineup is better than what you currently have with Urias?
Yes.
Yeah. You put
Kyle Stowers should be out there, and maybe guy currently in AAA, Colton Cowser, should be out there as well.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that was kind of where I wanted to take it. So why are those guys not right now either in the lineup or on the major league roster?
Don't ask me. I don't know.
Unsure about why Stowers isn't getting more playing time. We had this similar issue last year where he's a left-handed hitter, but Brandon Hyde firmly believed that he couldn't hit left-handed pitching, even though his reverse splits were great. But that's a management issue. Not having Urias in the field is obviously a tough pill to swallow. He's a Gold Glove defender at third base. But when you've got so many infielders that are also, capable bats that are better hitters than him, he just doesn't fit the roster as it's currently constructed, which means you probably need to move on from him, right? Mm-hmm. You need to trade him and get somebody that could help this team. Like, I don't know, a starting pitcher.
Would Stowers be better placed? Like, say you leave Urias at third and in the batting lineup, say you leave Gunnar Henderson at DH, would it be better off having Stowers playing in the outfield and batting than Santander?
No, because Santander's a better hitter. Okay. See, this is, again, like, Santander's good at one thing. He can hit. Urias is good at one thing. He can play third. And this is sort of the issue where there's just now you can't really slot these guys somewhere. If you're going to be a glue guy, you got to be able to fit in the little creases, right? You can't just, you can't just be a block of dried glue. You're useless then. So it's just a little bit of a frustration because, again, and it sounds weird because Urias is good. Like, this is overall a pretty good baseball player. He's an okay-ish hitter and a great fielder. But we have another guy who is a very good fielder and potentially could be one of the best hitters in baseball. He needs to be able to reach his full potential. And Urias' presence here, he could get a lot on the market. I'm sure somebody would be happy to trade for a 3-WAR type player. But, he's still here, and it's going to be frustrating all season watching these guys go out there and play terrible defense in the outfield, knowing damn well that we've got better options out there and we just can't use them because there's roster blockage.
Yeah, the outfield defense was a disaster. So Santander let a can of cornball fall in front of him because he couldn't see it, I guess. So that was a single and led to a run. And then he was looking Joey Rickard-esque going back on one ball, just a whirling dervish out there. Of course, the ball zoomed over his head. That led to 2 more runs. So just an absolute disaster. Then the first inning, Cedric Mullins, he didn't know where the wall was, so he misplayed a ball, and that was a triple for Verdugo, who also came in to score. So, just improved outfield defense, the Orioles would have rolled in this game. Let's see. At the end of the game, when it got a little hairy, it was a routine double play ball. So it was be 6-3 to end the game. Mateo fields the ball, steps on second base, throws it wildly in the dirt. So the game didn't end then. And ball rolled away, a run scored, and it was a mess. So, hopefully they take Aaron Boone's advice and tighten that stuff up a little bit.
Yeah. But I will say some positive things from some players that we didn't expect necessarily to see things from, like Ryan Mountcastle drawing 2 walks. Like,
yes,
who would have
it was
thought?
amazing.
Like, and I watched the game closely enough to be like, okay, those walks were earned. Like, not in the sense of he got walked. Like, the dude just threw 4 wild pitches. He actually worked the at-bat. He spit on a couple of close pitches. I was impressed with his plate approach. Now, it was one game, and it's not like this is a continuing trend that we saw from spring or from late last year. But, hey.
It's good to see it at all, though.
Yeah, you got it one day. So, hopefully that continues. And, again, Jorge Mateo hit well. Henderson drew a couple of walks. Mullins had a decent game outside of some not so great play in the outfield. But we expect better from him in center field. I don't expect that to be a recurring issue with Cedric. He's a pretty good defensive player. So, the concerns are just going to be pitching, managing this awkward roster at this point, and of course the bullpen. You got to worry about these guys who just I don't think you can trust them as much as we could last year. That last year feels like a fluke.
I'm out on Baker. I'm done. He's got to go.
He was falling apart last September.
He was bad in spring training too.
Yeah, because he's not good. He's just not a good player.
Yeah, so maybe we could package him and Urias to, I don't know, the Dodgers or somebody.
I don't think the Dodgers need him.
I mean, so send him away. Send him somewhere else, right? Like I say, I want some different people to complain about. It's really, really all it is. Some quick notes on Adley yesterday. According to Fox Sports,
my 7th round pick in fantasy baseball.
Yeah, he was great, wasn't he?
He was.
According to Fox Sports research, Rutschman is the first player to go 5 for 5 or better with at least 4 RBIs on opening day. He's just the 3rd player ever to go 5 for 5 and get multiple RBIs on opening day, joining Hall of Famers Billy Herman and Babe Ruth. Also, thanks to his first inning blast, the 25-year-old became the youngest Oriole to homer on opening day since Adam Jones in 2010, and the youngest Oriole to do so in his first opening day at bat since Cal Ripken Jr. in 1984. Rutschman is also the youngest Orioles catcher ever to have 5 hits in a single game. So, doing pretty good.
Sounds like Adley listened to this podcast last week and heard you say that Gunnar was a better baseball player than him. He took that personally.
Maybe. That means we had 4 listeners last week instead of the usual 3.
And one of them was Adley Rutschman. So, that's a big W.
Yeah. We talked about Gunnar and Hayes, 0 for 5 for both of them.
Well, I thought Gunnar drew a couple walks, though, right?
Oh, maybe. I misread that. I know Gunnar didn't get a hit.
Yeah, but he I don't think he went 0 for 5, though. I think he went 0 for 3 with 2 walks.
Probably. Something like that, anyway. Let's see. Grayson Rodriguez didn't make the roster. I didn't expect him to make the roster, honestly, because this is probably that service time manipulation thing all over again. They did the same thing with Adley last year, so Grayson Rodriguez, if he's healthy, he'll probably be up in late May or June. And, that's fine.
I mean, I find service time manipulation to be sleazy and abhorrent, but, that's where we are.
Those are the collectively bargained rules, right? Like, they just had a whole lockout and stuff last year. These are the rules governing the sport.
Doesn't make it less lame. Stop bootlicking, please.
I mean, I don't know. It is what it is, right? Like, if the players disliked it so much, they would have done something about it.
I mean, there's only so many things you can do about all at once when you're trying to collectively bargain and maintain baseball. So this idea that, the players, if they don't like this, they can complain about it. Well, then baseball gets locked out and we get mad at them. So, that's the way it works.
Baseball players never stop complaining anyway. Let's see. The Orioles are off today. Dean Kramer versus Chris Sale tomorrow at 4:10. up in Boston. Then there's one more in Boston on Sunday. Got 3 in Texas. And then the home opener on Thursday, April 6th at 3:05 versus the New York Yankees. And your boy is going to be in the barn on Thursday afternoon.
Nice.
Nice, good for you. Why don't you invite your other boy, your boy here? What's up with that?
Because I'm going with my dad, and, going to a baseball game with your dad is special, right?
Maybe I'll take a look at what my schedule looks like for next Thursday. I'm on spring break. As of today, I'm on spring break through next week. So,
congratulations.
If I'm around, that might be fun. It's, first road game for my Yankees of the season.
God. I don't know that I want you to be there, to be honest.
Well, he wouldn't be there with you. He'd just be there.
I think Evan is worried because I have a very good track record of my teams winning when I'm in the house. But
That's kind of fallen off.
Yeah, that kind of fell off a little bit.
We were there for your first L.
Yeah, you were.
That was great.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Ooh, where are we at? I
think
guess let's go to the Yankees if we must.
Yes, we must. Especially because the Yankees had a really good day yesterday. They were one of 5 teams to shut out their opponent, and they scored the most runs out of those 5 teams. It was a 5-0 win. New York's first opening day shutout victory since 1988, so it's been a minute. Garrett Cole was really good. Went 6 innings, was under 1 whip for the game. I think he gave up 3 hits and 2 walks over the course of those 6 innings. And then he also struck out 11, which is a Yankees opening day strikeout record. That includes 7 strikeouts, or should I say 7 straight outs via the punch out from the first inning into the 3rd inning. He gave up a leadoff walk and then struck out 7 of his next 8 batters. Aaron Judge went yard in the first inning, the second at-bat of the game for the Yankees, and the first home run of the 2023 Major League season. So picking up right where he left off after hitting 61 or 62 of them last year. So Judge overall went 2 for 4. Anthony Volpe made his MLB debut yesterday, went 0 for 2, but did draw a walk. And then in 3 innings of relief by Wandy Peralta, Jonathan Loáisiga, and Ron Marinaccio, only 2 base runners were allowed. So really strong pitching for the Yankees on opening day. Like the Orioles, we're off today, and then we've got 2 weekend home games against San Francisco, followed by a 3-game home series against Philly. And then, as Evan was saying, our first road games of the year in Baltimore starting next Thursday.
Yeah, I hate the day off after opening day.
I don't understand.
I do too.
I don't really understand it.
It's for rainouts.
I understand it's for rainouts, but why wouldn't you schedule that off day for like Sunday? Schedule games for Friday and Saturday. That way, if one of those games gets rained out, you move it on.
Gotta have Sunday baseball, man.
Whereas, sure,
Friday baseball too.
Sure, but the problem is if you don't have a rainout on Thursday, but then you end up having a rainout on Saturday or Sunday, now you just wasted that off day, like completely wasted it.
Yeah, but the idea is opening day is special, so you want to have 2 days available in case the first day doesn't go well. So
I guess
it also was easier when opening day was on a Monday, so it's like you take the off day Tuesday,
Right.
So you're not missing a weekend day, which is lame because Friday, Saturday, Sunday baseball is supposed to be a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with both those. Or both of you. Let's see. Corey, you mentioned the shutouts. Rangers score most runs in 11-7 win over Phillies. Every Rangers batter in the starting lineup scored a run.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that game went from 5-0 Philly to like 6-5 to eventually 11-7 in a snap. Like it was like maybe 10 minutes of time that passed, and suddenly the Rangers were winning. It was nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, DeGrom had a bad outing.
Thanks.
Yeah, for Eric.
Yeah.
Gave up 6 hits and 5 earned runs in 3.2 innings. One saving grace for Eric's score was that he did get 7 of his 11 outs via the
And he
K.
didn't lose. That
and
also
he didn't
helped.
lose. In fact, technically he was in line for the win
But he
when
didn't
he
qualify.
left, but he didn't qualify. So the next pitcher, who only pitched 1 out, got the win.
That's how it works.
the guy who finished the 4th inning got the win.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, and your sort of old team, your Mariners, they got a shutout win, 3-0.
Yeah, and I had Luis Castillo as one of my pitchers, so he had a nice day, even though he didn't get the win because he got Felixed.
Typical.
Yes. Yes, and now I'm back in it where I have to have at least somewhat of a rooting interest in the Seattle Mariners, and it is the specific need of a pitcher to get wins, which just gives me the worst case of PTSD you can have as a fan, watching Felix go out there and pitch 8 shutout innings, and it's like, it's 0-0 heading to the 9th, and I'm like, oh my God. It's just, he deserves so much better.
Oh, man. And then in addition to that, on the topic of typical Shohei Ohtani, 10 strikeouts in 6 shutout innings, Angels lose 2-1 to the Athletics.
I hate them so much.
What the hell?
Rendon was picking fights again and using his left hand, apparently. It's just...
So back to those shutouts, though. In addition to the Yankees and the Mariners, the Cubs and Rays both got 4-0 shutout wins over the Brewers and Tigers, respectively. The Twins shut out the Royals 2-0. One of the big takeaways from opening day, Evan's a little bit busy right now. He'll be right back with us momentarily. But one of the big takeaways from opening day was the absolute win that the pitch clock was. Out of, I didn't actually count up how, I'm assuming that every team was in action. Are there 15 games there?
Yeah, everybody played.
Okay.
It was one of the first times it's happened.
Right. So out of 15 games, only 5 of them went over 3 hours. And the longest one was 3 hours and 38 minutes. That was the Toronto-St. Louis game. That one, 19 runs were scored. When you've got a lot of offense, you're not going to complain about a 3+ hour game. But that means 10 out of 15 games were done in under 3 hours. The runs scored from those 5 games that went over 3 hours, 9, 9, 18, 19, and 19. So you had plenty of offense to keep you intrigued, even as you did have to sit through a longer game.
Yeah, and like we talked about at the top, the Orioles-Red Sox game, not only were there 19 combined runs scored, there were a lot of base runners that didn't score, right? There was a lot of walks. There was a lot of, errors.
Yeah.
So there was plenty of movement going on where there's probably at least 30 base runners in that game. And the game was over basically in the same amount of time that it would have been last year.
Yeah.
Which which is crazy because it's like normally you hear 10-9, that game's going to take 4 hours at least. Here it's like, yeah, it took 3 hours and 10 minutes. So we're like, yeah, cool. We played a very eventful baseball game, probably the most eventful baseball game in terms of total runs of the day, and it was over in 3 hours basically.
Yeah, not a single game even encroached on the 4-hour mark despite having 3 games with 18+ runs scored.
Can't tell me it's not better. Like, you can't tell me that's not an improvement.
There was even a game that only went 2 hours and 4 minutes. That 4-0 shutout win for the Rays over the Tigers.
That's how it used
barely went over 2 hours.
That's how it used to be when Mark Burley pitched, man. Like he was throwing a pitch every 8 seconds or something like that.
So and I don't know if you saw on Instagram. It was probably also on Twitter. There was a side-by-side comparison of an entire half inning of one game from yesterday, right next to literally one pitch thrown from a game a year or two ago. And it was probably the most egregious example of one pitch being thrown. There were 2 or 3 timeouts taken by either the pitcher or the hitter. There was a throwback or a fake of a throwback to second base. There was all kinds of filibustering for for that one pitch to be thrown. But still, we didn't see any of that yesterday, and we're not going to see anything that egregious all year as long as the umpires continue to enforce this throughout the year. And there was at least one instance of a batter not getting back in the box quickly enough and a strike being called yesterday.
Yeah, on Austin Hayes. Yeah. It was our guy.
It happened to Devers too, and he struck out. That was strike 3.
Oh, wow. It actually counted as a strike 3?
Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. I like that. I mean, that's good because it needs to be consistent even in a 2-strike count. But man, that's rough.
That's a great way to earn a strikeout if you're a pitcher, though. You got to be thrilled about that.
You don't even have to throw the ball.
Sweet, I don't have to make a good.
Out.
I wonder if anybody had that pitcher in fantasy.
Kevin Gausman probably wishes he could have that when he was with the Orioles. He's 0-2, giving up tanks all the time, just grooving fastballs. Oh my god.
Yeah. So y'all talked about. I had to step away for just a second, but y'all talked
about
the pace of play.
Yeah, we talked about the pace of play. We talked about Ohtani.
Yeah. The new pace of play is a delight. Yes, I love it. I love it so much.
Absolutely.
I mean, is that all we got for baseball?
Well, I guess talk a little bit about the bigger bases, the limits of rubber disengagements, in particular as it applied to the Orioles.
They were stealing bases all day.
The Orioles. Yeah. It was open season, just running wild.
They stole 5 bases and none of them drew a throw.
No. Yeah, one of their pitchers threw over one time, and it was like, oh well, now the runner's going this time. Right, the pitcher wouldn't dare throw over a second time, and sure enough, by the time the pitcher threw the ball to home plate, the base runner was halfway to second already.
Yeah, he took off well before the pitcher even went to the plate. It was like Adam Frazier was he almost had a little bit of a stop, almost like he felt guilty. Am I actually allowed to just go? And he's not going to throw over here.
Just go.
It was just like, okay, sweet, I'll take this stolen base. So it was interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that goes with the rules about the disengagement from the rubber, because pitchers are going to whine about that because they're going to get stolen on left and right after they make that first pickoff throw.
Well, they're also going to whine eventually when it comes down to situations where they're low in the pitch clock and base runner decides to time it up because the pitcher has used up the entire, I guess it's 18 seconds when a runner is on base, right?
Whatever it is, you got to make the adjustment. And frankly, stolen bases have become a lost art in baseball because the analytics suggest that, you have to be really, really good to steal a base. You have to steal at least 75% success rate. Right. And if you're out there, if you're stealing 40 bases, but you're getting caught 20 times, to get to those 40 stolen bases, it's not worth the effort. But now that the bases are the size of pizza boxes and, you get just a little bit less distance to get from first to second on that, and the runner has a bit of a strong advantage over the battery now, it's going to make a big difference, and it's going to encourage stolen bases. And frankly, stolen bases are one of the most exciting plays in baseball. It's fun to watch. Dude takes off, the catcher comes up, his stupid mask flies off his head, and he just uncorks a throw. It's really cool to watch. One of my favorite plays to watch, especially in slow motion, going back to sorry Corey, the 04 ALCS where Dave Roberts stole that base, barely beat the throw. It was a high pitch. Posada came out of the crouch, put it right on the money, and he just barely beat it. I was like, that is an awesome play.
Yeah.
That is a marvel of baseball that we don't get to see as much anymore because people just aren't stealing bases. But if this gets people more into that stuff, then I'm all for it.
I mean, if the base is the size of a pizza box, you got to steal the base if there's a pizza in there,
I mean,
there's a pizza in there for the Orioles. You got 50% off Papa John's today, didn't you?
Yes, indeed.
Right.
And, I'm kind of hoping we can hasten this up a little bit because I got to put my order in.
Well, it's your show, so, move it along then.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I'm barely paying attention, I guess. I guess that's all for baseball. Unless you'll have something else to add.
No,
I think I'm good. Oh, just a quick, I know we do shout-outs later, but shout-out to my boy Connor Norby, who hit a 3-run tank today.
Ooh.
In the Norfolk Tides opening day down there on the farm.
I think they're in Durham tonight.
Okay, so they're, okay. Well, then he hit it out of that awesome stadium that we got to attend the game at. Apparently,
yes.
I have not seen video footage of it, but apparently it was a 95-mile-an-hour fastball at the letters, and he just absolutely smoked it. So can't wait to see the footage because, I love me some Connor Norby.
Yes.
I love all the guys on the farm, but Connor Norby is my boy because he liked one of my tweets. So
he liked one of your tweets. Okay.
Yeah. By the way, the Marlins and Mets currently in action. Their first pitch was at 6:44, so it's been well less than an hour. They're already into the 4th inning.
Booyah.
Nice. Yankees and Red Sox from a few years ago, they'd be still in the top of the first.
Also,
that particular game, when the first game of the that international series, they literally took them an entire hour. I think it was 61 or 62 minutes to get
forever.
one inning.
But they scored a lot of runs.
They did. They scored 20 combined.
And thoughts and prayers for the Mets because on opening day they lost Justin Verlander, who wasn't even pitching that day. They just found out. Oh, by the way, he's not going to be here. He's going on the IL. So, just continues to just get screwed over there.
They did
also
win, though.
More misfortune for the Mets. A strike was called on a batter whose name I can't remember because Pete Alonso took too long to get back to first base on a foul ball. Somehow that was a pitch clock violation as well.
Well, I mean, I guess the runner does have to be like back at least within the base path.
Yeah, it's part of his job to make sure that we're ready to play after 18 seconds or whatever. So move it along.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Moving along. We are as well. NBA. Kevin Durant returns and sucks, but the Suns still win. All of the NBA has been a WW in my scorebook. So Eric, go ahead and fill us in on what in the world happened in this league this week.
Well, quite a bit has happened. So KD came back from his strange ankle injury that he suffered in pregame warmups, where he just, I don't know, he just rolled his ankle. And it just stepped weird as a professional athlete, which is strange. Some people say that the floor was slippery. I'm like, nah, I don't think that's what happened. I think he just rolled his ankle. It happens. But he came back, and, you know, normally it's not very noteworthy when a star player returns and has a rough game, his first game back. But Kevin Durant has spectacularly bucked that trend when he's returned from injury. He comes back and just lights it up like he never left. Not this time. This time he was bad. Like, he was missing. He went 4 of 17 from the field or something like that. He just didn't really have it. He was missing all of his shots short. But the Suns,
Did he get to double digits in points?
Yeah, because he got. Well, he made two
free throws.
He made 2 threes and he got to the free throw line a couple times. So I think he got 16 points. So still a very inefficient scoring game.
Sure.
But you know, but Devin Booker was good. Chris Paul actually played well. He hasn't played well much lately. And they were playing the Timberwolves, and the Timberwolves are frustratingly mediocre because they can be spectacular at times, but at other times they're the Timberwolves, right? Like, they've got a bunch of guys that exist solely to frustrate you, in the sense of either you should be better than you are, or you're so young that you're not going to be consistent, right? Like, Anthony Edwards is awesome. Like, everybody likes Anthony Edwards, but he's also 21, and he's going to go out there. He's still going to make mistakes. He's going to have inconsistencies from being a young player. And it also doesn't help that he's basically being asked to be the team leader, because the actual supposed team leader is Karl Anthony Towns, and Karl Anthony Towns is devoid of any type of leadership skills or toughness. Sorry to say it. He's just, I would be so frustrated if I rooted for his team. Like, because he's so talented, right? Like, he's the 7-footer that can shoot threes. He's got a great offensive skill set, but he also just seems like he gets frustrated and does dumb stuff all the time. Like, he gets a little bit of physical contact, he starts flailing his arms around and commits a bunch of dumb fouls. He can't defend. He just doesn't seem to have that grit that you would like to see from now. I think this is his 8th season in the league. I mean, he's been around a while. And then there's also everybody's favorite patient zero, Rudy Gobert. Like, he just goes out there and flails about, and, you know, then he's like, he suggested after they lost that game that the league is rigging games against, like, teams like the Timberwolves in favor of the Suns and the Warriors. And I'm like, the Suns and the Warriors have 2 of the lowest free throw rates in the NBA this year. I don't think the refs are rigging it in their favor. Y'all are just some bums. You're just not good.
Is he suggesting that the NBA is rigging it because Phoenix and San Francisco are bigger markets than Minneapolis?
I think he's just suggesting that they're playing favorites on account of Steph Curry and or Kevin Durant or Devin Booker. You know, because everybody else...
Those guys are better than you.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yes, and they still don't get to the free throw line that much. Well, Kevin Durant does, but Booker doesn't get to the line all that much. I think the impetus for him complaining was the fact that Booker shot 15 free throws in this game, but Booker doesn't usually shoot that many, which tells me y'all were fouling the hell out of him. So, you know, I don't really see how that works out. There's some bizarre happenings in Corey's house that I can't really see. Like, his patio door just opened.
Oh, boy.
I assumed it was his wife, but I was also like, that's weird that Rashonda was out on the patio the whole time, and I didn't know it until just now.
She can't stand our podcast so much. Anyway, she's just sitting outside.
She's gone. That's the second time. Like, I don't know what's going on with that. It's weird.
Got a haunted crib here, dude.
Yeah. Yeah, what's going on?
Like a Paranormal Activity movie out of your life.
I was going to say, when you mentioned Rudy Gobert, I was going to say, I want somebody to make, like, a Rocket Man parody about Rudy Gobert. COVID man, bringing the pandemic to the league.
Oh, my God. Yeah, making it real for all of us, you know. that was the moment. The watershed moment for COVID-19 was when Rudy Gobert got sick and they had to cancel some games.
Yes, after he was feeling up and licking all the microphones and tape recorders.
Yes,
disgusting.
Making an ass of himself. Like, look at this, I'm being funny. And then it turns out, oh yeah, you got COVID.
Like the guy on The Bachelor this season who was kissing like 15 women or something, and then it's like, oh, by the way, he's got COVID.
Yeah, I did.
And,
I actually did hear about that.
Yeah, I think for me.
Why were you watching The Bachelor?
Because I was eating my dinner upstairs in the kitchen, and my mom was watching The Bachelor on the TV in the living room that particular night.
Oof.
And it was like, oh, he's kissing all the women, and then,
Sometimes
by the way,
when
he's got
trash
COVID.
TV is on the TV and you're in the room, like you just can't help it. Like
Yeah, but like
kinda
normally,
stick around for a little bit.
like normally men only watch The Bachelor if like their girlfriend or wife is into it.
Well,
So-
I don't have one of those.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I was like, I know you don't have one of those. I was like, why is Evan watching The Bachelor? He's single. That's weird. But Corey's looking at me like he watches The Bachelor, but Corey's not.
I
single.
don't watch The Bachelor. I do watch Love Is Blind.
Yeah, I know you watch that, and
I enjoy it. It
it's-
is trash TV at its finest.
yeah,
That and The Ultimatum.
I'll get in on that maybe when I have somebody to enjoy making fun of it with. But for now, I'm good.
Okay. The Mavericks are not good.
No, they're not.
I haven't watched them play either. But what's the
have.
deal with them? Are you saying Kyrie Irving is tanking another team? What?
No, I'm actually not saying that Kyrie is tanking this team because
Luka?
the team was already tanked. They sucked
Ooh.
before they got him. Like this is the
That's disappointing.
I know it's a letdown that Kyrie Irving can't be blamed entirely for this one, but it's and the thing is like my man Bomani Jones pointed it out and he got heat from Ryan Russillo because Russillo's an angry Bostonian who probably loathes Kyrie because of his brief period there, but it was pointed out that Kyrie when he goes places he doesn't cause problems as soon as he shows up. It takes a little while for it to, for him to metastasize, if you will. And so,
That's crazy.
but he comes in, and when he's on the floor, he typically plays well and he helps you win, right? Like when he was with Cleveland, when LeBron was there, he helped them make 3 straight finals. When he went to Boston that first year after he demanded to trade out of Cleveland, he and the Celtics were they were 46-21 or something like that before he got hurt. And at the end, then they ended up going to the conference finals and losing. They probably would have made the NBA finals if he had been on the floor. And then the year after that, it was a disaster. Then with the Nets looked like they were going to win the title until he got hurt. So, yeah, obviously him getting hurt is a problem, but that has nothing to do with the Kyrie-ness of Kyrie that we love to talk about and hate on him for.
Kyrie.
So, here, this is the first time that he's gone somewhere where he's shown up in a place where winning is an expectation, and he's just played basketball, hasn't nuked the team yet with some crazy conspiracy or pouting or anything like that.
Or
and
hatred against a group of people.
Yeah, and the team still sucks. So, my response to the idea that everybody wants to, look, see, Kyrie's blowing up the team, I'm like, man, when do the Mavericks take some responsibility for this? Because we talked about this when the trade happened. I said, at best, they're as good as they were last year as a result of this trade. Because they gave up all of their potential defenders to get Kyrie, because that's what it took to get him. And now you're left with a situation where you've got an improvement over Jalen Brunson at the point guard position, but no defense. So your team has, at best, made a lateral move here compared to last year, when you could have just kept Jalen Brunson for cheaper and still had all your wings. So I don't know why they operated this way. Mark Cuban deserves criticism. He hasn't been able to put a good roster around a star since Dirk was there 10 years ago. When was the last time the Mavericks got a marquee free agent? I'm not even talking like a top 10 player in the league. I'm talking like just a good player that could really help their team. Like the guys.
What about DeAndre Jordan?
Yes, this is my point. DeAndre Jordan was supposed to be the guy, and then Chris Broussard's reporting that Mark Cuban is driving around Dallas trying to get his address because he decided to go back to the Clippers, and Mark Cuban wants to go knock on his door and have a word with him. It's kind of weird. And now I kind of actually believe that. At the time, I thought it was nonsense. Now I'm like, actually, I can see Cuban doing that. But yeah, and where does the blame fall on Jason Kidd? He has
his team around 360 degrees.
Yes, man. Yes. I mean, we made fun of him last week for his team not defending the correct basket.
Oh my God!
You know, and
for his poor geometry skills.
Yes, that wasn't on the podcast. That was after the podcast. But yeah, but this has been a recurring thing for him where he flamed out with the Nets. That was when he decided to spill water on the floor to get a timeout, and he got thrown out of the game. He is largely blamed for some of Giannis' struggles to develop a jump shot because a lot of people don't realize that Giannis was an okay outside shooter when he first got to the league, and Jason Kidd tried to help him with his shot, and now it's Giannis' jump shot, which we've all seen, and it's not great. So he got fired from there. The Mavericks get him, and the first year the defense looks great, just like it did in Brooklyn, just like it did in Milwaukee, and now it's like the Rob Ryan effect. You get one good year of defense, and then people figure it out, and it's over. So Kidd deserves some blame. I don't think he's going to survive this season. And there's got to be some blame on Luka Doncic. Like we talked about this before. He is a hard player to play with the higher the level of talent surrounding him is. If you're a guy with any level of skills, you will feel suboptimized playing with Luka Doncic because you never get the ball. Right? You get the ball either as a lob or as a catch and shoot three. That's it. You're never no plays are called for you. Luka runs the show and maybe he finds you. That's it. And that's fine if you're Kyle Korver or if you're Reggie Bullock or you're Dorian Finney-Smith. But it's not okay if you're Kyrie Irving, whose value to your team on the court is he can create his own shot and draw the defense. But if Kyrie's just going to be standing around the perimeter, yeah, he can shoot, but that's not his best skill set, and you're never going to get the best out of him if Luka's pounding the ball for 20 seconds of the shot clock.
So let me ask you this, because it seems like there are multiple high-level players in the NBA who, like, you could describe the same way you just described Luka Doncic. Is that what the NBA is becoming? Like, it's actually not good to have too many great players, or are there some high-level players, like players who are as good or better than Luka Doncic, who can also coexist with other really good players?
It's the latter, because you think about Nikola Jokic, right? He scores 25 a game. He's not shooting the ball every time. He passes the ball. He's brilliant at that part of the game. But other players can cook with him. He can set screens. He can run a two-man game with Jamal Murray, right? Like, he doesn't have to be the guy that just has the ball for the vast majority of the shot clock every possession. LeBron James, people think of him as this guy who just constantly has the ball in his hands, but LeBron is willing to give it up sometimes. And he's willing to cut to the basket, and he's willing to do some of the other things without the ball. It's not his favorite thing to do, but he does at least a little bit of it. And oh, by the way, LeBron James, in his heyday, was one of the best defenders in the NBA, so he more than made up for that on the defensive end, whereas Luka's a negative defender, which, he just doesn't do enough other things, right? And, we've talked about Steph. Steph doesn't need the ball in his hands to be a threat. He runs around like a chicken with his head cut off and just, people get tired of chasing him and he hits threes, right? That's what he does. But he obviously can also do well with the ball in his hands. But, like, Giannis, we talked about him. Even Anthony Davis, he doesn't need the ball in his hands. He can be a lob threat when he's not injured, right? And, again, you can even point to Kyrie Irving. Irving doesn't necessarily need the ball in his hands all the time. But if he never has the ball in his hands, he's not Kyrie Irving, right? So, like, it's a Luka, like, there's this idea of heliocentrism in the NBA where it's like everything just revolves around the one guy. But there are limits to that, and there is a necessary adjustment to be made for certain players who can't operate any other way because star players don't want to play with you if they don't get the ball.
Can Luka adjust his game to be able to coexist better with other players and still be as good as he is right now?
I don't see why not, right? Like, obviously part of it is conditioning, right? Luka has never been exactly the most fit individual.
Yeah, it seems like every year he gets more and more unfit.
Yeah, like he's a little doughy, especially coming into the new season, but
I feel like even at this point in this season, like I was watching the Warriors game against the Mavericks, was it last week?
Yeah,
it was recent, and I was looking at him like, as much crap as we give
Zion
for how pudgy he looks at times, like Zion looks bigger than I've ever seen. Or I'm sorry, Luka looks bigger right now than I've ever seen Zion when he's actually on the floor.
Well, and the thing with Zion is that when Zion is healthy, he stays in shape. It's just that when he gets hurt and he can't exercise, that's when he gets fat again.
Yeah.
But Luka just stays a butterball all the time. And, again, I don't want to sound like I'm just knocking the guy for being fat, because it's not just about the conditioning. It's about knowing how to play that way, knowing when to move, knowing how to sort of bait the defense into doing certain things. Like when you watch, like obviously the best off-ball mover probably in the history of basketball is Steph Curry. He's not just running around the whole time doing cardio. He has a strategy with how he moves. He takes certain moments where he kind of lulls the defender to sleep, and then he runs, and he deliberately runs him into his own guy sometimes. Like, because the guy just has to chase him now, and it's like, oh yeah, whoops, I didn't look up and I ran right into this tree. Right? Like, that's the type of thing that Steph does. It's a little bit of a learned skill, and it requires some discipline to do it. And it also requires that Luka be a more adept catch-and-shoot player. Right? Like, Luka takes the vast majority of his three-point shots as step-backs. Like, we've seen it with James Harden at times where he feels awkward catching the ball and trying to shoot it just by doing that. Like, it's almost like he has to do a step-back like to himself when he's standing wide open, because it's like, how do I shoot this? I only do this one way. So it requires a level of work. And I've heard things about, like, when Rick Carlisle was still coaching the Mavericks, that he wanted to play a more egalitarian style offense, like a more motion style, people move around. And Luka said, hell no. And that was a big part of the reason why Carlisle was dismissed and Jason Kidd was brought in. And given the fact that Luka has shown, he certainly has an attitude, right? Like, he's got more technical fouls than Draymond Green does, right?
What?
Like yes.
How is that possible?
Luka usually leads the league in tees. He is always complaining to the officials. He got in trouble after the debacle that we've talked about now 3 times with them defending the wrong basket. He gestured towards the refs doing the Johnny Manziel, Money Manziel suggesting that I guess the refs are taking money from Golden State or from somebody to rig the game for him. That got him fined, and after the game teed up, he's working on a second suspension now for technical fouls.
32 technicals?
No, after you get to 16, then you get suspended another game for every 2 after that.
Oh.
So yeah, they're not going to give you another 16. Like that would be kind of ridiculous. So yeah, that's sort of where he is. Like I feel like he's got a little growing up to do, right? And he's still young. He's like 24, but there's just parts of his game that make it difficult to build around him, and it doesn't help that for whatever reason the Mavericks haven't been able to go get that guy.
Is this a coaching issue? Like, I feel like a good coach would be able to, mold a young player and develop them not only on the court but between the ears as well. I feel like a good coach would be able to take some players that don't really fit well together initially and devise some sort of scheme to make it work better. So is this also a Jason Kidd problem?
Yeah, I mean, Kidd's definitely not what I consider a good coach. But there are also just serious roster deficiencies with this team, especially post-trade. Like they just don't have the perimeter defense. They don't have the rim protection. Like, so they're going to get scored on, and they're going to ask Kyrie and Luka to just outscore everybody that they play. And when those guys are kind of an awkward fit at times, then their offense is just never going to be as efficient as the parts of the team suggest that they should be. But so that in the end, that ends up like the Mavericks aren't even going to make the play-in.
Ooh.
Like, that's where they are right now. They look like they're not going to make the play-in. They lost twice in 3 days to the Charlotte Hornets. Like that's the Tank City beat you twice.
The Hornets have guys like us out there playing.
Yes. And they don't have LaMelo Ball. He's injured. So what are you doing, right? Like,
smoking and joking.
Yeah, so I'm expecting to see a shakeup from the Mavs. It'll be interesting to see what Luka does because, like I said, it's not all Luka's fault.
But it is some.
Some of it is, but not all of it, and I would say not even most of it is his fault. And so with that being the case, his days in Dallas, I don't. What's to stop him from saying to Cuban, either get me somebody that fits with me, because there are star players that could fit with him, or I'm gonna leave. What's to stop him from doing that?
Nothing. I mean, if he's already yapping at all the officials, what's going to stop him from yapping at the guy who signs his checks?
Absolutely nothing.
All right, Celtics savage the Bucks. Another game I didn't watch.
Didn't miss much because it was a beatdown.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a perceived Eastern Conference Finals preview, maybe. Like, given the fact that the Bucks are the number 1 seed in the East right now, the Celtics are number 2, and those have kind of been the 2 teams that people have looked at as the favorites throughout the season in the Eastern Conference. Currently, the Bucks are 2 games up on Boston. They each have 5 games left to play.
I believe that's right.
So, really? The season's
season's
regular season ends next weekend.
Yeah, playoffs begin on April 16th.
Yeah, it's the
14th, something like that.
I think it's that Sunday after Easter. So Eastern Orthodox Easter is when. Yeah. And because the play-in is the couple days after, because the regular season ends on Easter Sunday.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we got a week left basically.
Yeah.
And so 5 games apiece. I'm assuming the Bucks are going to hold on to the 1 seed. They'll probably win at least 4 out of their last 5 or something like that. But yeah, it's an intriguing matchup because they met last year in the second round. The series went 7 games. It was really competitive. And this year, interesting to see what would happen. I think most people thought the Bucks had put themselves head and shoulders above not just the Celtics, but everybody in the NBA as we head into the playoffs. And the Celtics kind of said, not so fast here, right? Like, they bludgeoned them pretty badly. Like, let's see what the final score
41 points.
Yeah, the final
41?
score 140-99. It was a dismantling. So, and this is the second time that the Bucks have gotten beat by pretty good competition. They went to Denver and got smoked, just like I think last week. And I mean, you can't really say that the Celtics got lucky when you win by 41. Like they were just killing the Bucks all game. Obviously, one game doesn't mean anything. Like, we saw the Bucks lose by 38 to the Nets in one of their games in the playoffs in 2021, and they ended up winning the title. Golden State lost by 38 to Memphis in Game 5 last year, and they ended up winning the title. So, like, it's not a huge deal, but it is sort of a reminder that the Celtics are extremely dangerous. The Celtics are a team that, for my money, they've got the best 1 through 8 in basketball. Right, like their entire team is very good to great players. My concern with them remains the same as it was last year, and that is Jason Tatum. Like, Jason Tatum is very, very good. He's a top 10 player in the NBA, but you got to go through guys that are better than top 10 when you're trying to win a title. You have to go through guys like Giannis or Jokic or Steph or Embiid, right? And if you are not able to outplay those guys, you greatly increase the chances of your team losing, even if they have a better overall team.
I do want to point out the Celtics have beaten the Bucks twice out of 3 times so far this year.
Okay, so they do have the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Well, that'll make life even more interesting. So nobody's going to be able to take their foot off the gas the rest of the way.
Interestingly, the Bucks, when they lost that game to Boston, they were coming off a 149-136 win against Indiana the day before, whereas the Celtics were coming off a 130-110 loss to Washington 2 days before.
Yeah, like Bill Simmons was hitting the panic button after the Celtics lost to the Wizards that badly.
Yeah. I'm sorry, did I say the Bucks lost to the Pacers?
No, you said they won.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so the Bucks the rest of the way they've got Philly on Sunday at home. That should be a good game. Then they're at Washington. That's a win.
Should be.
Yeah. Giannis isn't going to lose to the Wizards. Like, that's just not a thing. But that's the front end of a back-to-back. Then they go back home to face the Bulls, who are kind of scrappy. Then they got the Grizzlies, who are pretty good, but the Bucks are better. And then they play at Toronto to finish out their season. So
they could lose 2 of those games.
It's possible, and I haven't looked at Boston's
But Boston
schedule.
would have to go 5-0 at that point just to tie it and get the tiebreaker.
Yeah, they're playing against the Jazz tonight, which they're going to beat them because the Jazz are terrible. But then they've got at Philly, a back-to-back against Toronto, both games at home, then they've got they finished off with a home game against the Hawks, who suck. So
they could go 5-0 in that.
Maybe. Like, Toronto's pretty tough though. Like,
yeah,
I wouldn't sleep on them. So
and playing the same team back-to-back nights, like how many times does the same team win both games when both teams are pretty good?
Yeah, exactly. Like I was gonna say, it happens a lot when the team sucks.
Sure, but like it could, like that could obviously flip-flop between the two games.
Yeah, so it is something to keep your eye on as we approach the postseason to see who ends up getting that top seed. Obviously, the Bucks are still in the better position, but things can change.
Okay.
Alrighty. We didn't talk about college basketball
No, we
yet.
did not. It's the one other thing we do need to address.
Yes. My bracket's still awful.
We're all out of teams, right? Like Corey got a team in the Final Four, but he's out of points.
So, but let's go ahead and talk about it real quick. We'll start on the men's side. I'm currently tied for first with Stephen April and Kyle Sherman with 580 points. So all of us are out of points. In fact, only one person, our entire bracket challenge, can still get more points, and that is the unknown individual going by the name OwlsFan954. He is currently in sixth place, or she. They are currently in sixth place with 550 points. But if UConn wins tomorrow night, they will get up to 710 points, and they will win. And they'll be done because they did not pick UConn to win the national championship.
I think they're going to win because UConn is a wagon.
UConn is killing it right now. Jordan Hawkins is crushing. That entire team just looks really
They
good.
look like they're not going to lose.
So,
like,
Miami has been playing really well. They ought to give them a decent game. Ultimately, I think whoever wins that game between Miami and UConn is going to win the national championship against whoever wins between San Diego State and Florida Atlantic. But I agree. I think UConn is going to win, and I think that I'm going to be a sad second-place finisher in our bracket challenge.
UConn is the weirdest program.
Usually, I am really good at picking when UConn is going to make a deep run in the tournament.
But you did. You picked them to make the Final Four.
I did make them to make the Final Four, but usually, like when... What?
You did make them to pick the Final Four. Yeah.
Damn it. Anyway, but like when they win the national championship, which right now it's looking like that's a pretty good bet, I'm usually pretty good at picking them to win the national championship in the past.
Well, it's just weird because they don't.
Their last two national championships, I picked them to win the national championship.
Yeah, but like the 2014 one, they were a 7 seed, right? Like
I still picked them to win.
I'm not saying I don't believe you, but that's my point. Is they used to be like in the Jim Calhoun era, they were regularly among the top 3 seeds in the NCAA tournament, and that's how you win 3 championships. But then since then, like this would be their second championship in the last 10 years, where it's like they're kind of just like, oh yeah, UConn, they're here, and they just win.
Yeah, they were a 4 seed this year.
Yeah, but they win like a blue blood without actually having the perception of a blue blood because nobody thinks they're that good in the regular season, and then they get to the NCAA tournament and they're always a sexy pick. It's not like they come out of nowhere. Everybody's like, oh yeah, UConn, they might win the whole thing again. What? Like, but where was that talk in November, right? Like it just wasn't there, but suddenly UConn just figured out, oh yeah, we're really good at basketball, so we're going to kick everybody's asses in March and April and end up winning a championship. So good for them.
Any thoughts on that San Diego State Florida Atlantic matchup?
No, not even one.
Yeah, I had Florida Atlantic in my Sweet 16, but I had them losing there to Oral Roberts, who I had in my Final Four.
Yeah, the guy that picked Oral Roberts in the Final Four might win the bracket challenge because nobody else got the Final Four right. Like, it's just ridiculous.
I had one correct Final Four pick, and I'm tied for first.
That's all it takes, man.
That is all it
what's
takes.
your what? Like, because
in fact, let me
your
see.
point
Did
number
anybody
sucks.
Else? Yeah, I think 4 other people got one Final Four team. Nobody else got any.
Yeah, you said you got like 580 points.
I have 580 points.
That is a pathetic number, and it's
in
probably
most years.
it's probably really good
and
this year.
It's going, yeah. I mean, well, so the top average point total for any bracket across ESPN is 580. And granted, it's an average point bracket, and they do have 25 plus members in that particular bracket. But like, that's an outlier. compared to all the other groups that are on ESPN. So to round out the top 5, we've got August Mao in 4th place with 570 points. He had Duke as his national champion. Kyle Sherman and I had Houston, and Stephen April had Alabama. And then Brianna Reddy is in 5th place. She also had Houston as her winner. Eric is currently tied for 14th place with 450 points, no more points available.
Right in the middle of the pack.
And then Evan is in dead last with 250 points and also no more points available. Moving over to the
2.7th percentile. So doing great.
Oh yeah. Speaking of percentiles, with 580 points, I'm in the 94th percentile.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, though.
Good Lord.
Like,
insane.
It's a disaster.
Yeah.
Unmitigated.
All right. So looking over at the women's side of the tournament, one of the 2 Final Four games is actually currently being played. It's halftime. LSU was winning by 4 at the end of the first quarter. They extended the lead out to 9 about halfway through the second quarter, and now they're losing by 2 at halftime to Virginia Tech. So I have LSU in my championship game. I also have South Carolina in my championship game. The 9 o'clock game is I'm glad that we'll be done with the podcast by that time because I'm really excited to watch that South Carolina-Iowa game. That's going to be a really fun one. But anyway, on our women's bracket, King Gra 23. Don't know who this person is, but congratulations to them. They're currently in first place with 840 points, 50 ahead of the rest of the field, and I don't think that they can finish anywhere but first place based on their picks for the Final Four and everybody else's picks for the Final Four. They have South Carolina as their national champion, but they do not have their other championship game team still alive. They had UConn in their championship. Evan is currently in second place with 790 points. He has a max total of 1270, which is the 4th highest max total. So he could get overtaken by 2 people. One of them is OwlsFan954, the likely winner of our men's bracket. Could jump up to second, or actually could jump up to first place in the women's bracket challenge as well. They have South Carolina winning against LSU in their championship, which is the same as me, which means I can't catch them. I cannot catch King Gra, but I can catch Evan, and I can get 3rd place. I'm currently in 7th place out of 8 with 640 points. I'm in the 40th percentile, but I could get 640 more points. I could double my score. Eric is currently tied for 4th with Emily Hutz at 750 points, but Eric is out of points because he had Maryland winning his championship game, and I think you had UConn.
No,
you had Indiana.
I had a bunch of Big Ten teams.
Yeah, you had Indiana.
And all Big Ten teams, and none of them made it.
Yep. Sorry, Rashonda, gotta call you out for this. The only other person in our bracket challenge who can't get any more points on the women's side is my wife. She's at 720 points, just behind Eric. And Sean is still stuck at 0 because he did not actually complete his bracket, even though he entered the group.
Oops. Well, so at least nobody has to finish in last behind that actually tried. So there's that.
Yeah, there's that.
So there you go.
So
yes.
I got a couple of tidbits on college basketball that's not related to the tournament, just sort of outside stuff. So Zach Edey was named AP National Player of the Year, which is a little awkward.
Considering
that guy
was
Yes.
terrible in
actually
the
play
first
basketball?
round where his team lost
Yeah,
to a 16
his team
seed,
went
and he couldn't
down-
rebound.
Ignominious
he's
defeat
7'4".
to a 16 seed.
He was the worst player in the entire tournament. I feel comfortable saying that. During the tournament, I think he played worse than any other player.
No, players on his team played worse than he did, though.
Really?
Like, they were breaking so many shots.
Yeah,
like
it was Brick
to
City.
be fair to him, he was making the right plays a lot of times. They would double his big ass, and he would throw it out to one of their shooters, and they were just clanking them all.
Clank it. Yes.
Yeah. But like my criticism of it is like, okay, you're 7-4 and you're facing the smallest team in the tournament, literally. Okay, you guys are clanking a shot, so then go up and grab the rebound and then dunk it.
Yeah, he couldn't because he had hands of
he would
stone
catch
in that
the ball,
game.
he'd bring it
He
down
would
and
literally
someone
hit him in
smack it
both
out
of
of
his
his
hands,
hand.
not just one, both of his hands, and then it would just bounce off and out of bounds.
Yeah, so I agree
This
with you.
happened at least 3 times that I counted.
I agree with you. He was terrible in that game, but his teammates were worse.
He definitely
which
was
is
not
how
National Player of the Year in that game.
Oh no. But
I think it's funny how Corey's talking about how somebody else can't catch. We saw you trying to catch that sponge with the frisbee. It was not pretty.
It's a very different type of catching.
I feel like it's harder to catch a sponge with a frisbee than just a
really
basketball.
Hard. It was really hard to catch that. It's a wet sponge, but as it flies through the air, water is just spraying out of the sponge. So its weight changes, which means that the trajectory it's on at the beginning of its flight is very different from its trajectory at the end of the flight. It is not a smooth parabola.
That is a very, very nice excuse there, Corey. I'm very impressed.
I also caught one before the other team did.
That's true.
You had a very slow first step.
I looked over there after a couple of them. I saw them struggling. I was like, okay, either we're going to win or nobody's going to win because they're never catching that sponge. They weren't even coming close.
I wasn't even looking over at them, so I had no idea
I took a couple
good
of
or bad
peeks.
they were looking.
When I would I would launch the sponge, and then you would not catch it, and you would retrieve it and kind of send it back to me. During that moment, I would kind of look over there, and I saw them. They had no chance. And I was like, okay, Corey's eventually going to catch this sponge. I'm eventually going to put it right on a platter for him, and he's going to go boop right there. I was like, either that or we're going to take up all of halftime, and they're going to say, okay, you guys need to go sit down, which would have been hilarious. But anyway, yeah, Zach Edey can't catch or do anything, apparently, other than just be tall.
Apparently not.
But he's the best player in college basketball. Yeah. Right.
Except for Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark is the best player in college basketball.
Caitlin Clark, if they had Caitlin Clark playing for Purdue that game on the men's side, they would have won.
I think so.
Because she would have made some threes.
I actually think so.
She would have made a bunch of threes, and that would have been it. So, anyway, yeah, so another piece of news, Jahmir Young, DeMatha Zone, is returning to Maryland for his COVID senior year. So, happy about that. That's good news for Maryland, and obviously we're
expecting him to declare for the draft, but...
Well, I don't know if he's going to be an NBA level player, but
yeah.
But I figured that he would still probably just move on, right? Because most people are just like, okay, I've exhausted my eligibility for college,
right. But he hasn't.
But he hasn't. But most people say, okay, after 4 years, I'm going to go, but he didn't. So he's coming back. Terps are happy to have him.
Yeah.
And other DeMatha related college basketball news: Hunter Dickinson has entered the transfer portal.
Interesting.
So he may or may not have Dr. Pepper.
Yes, if he doesn't have Dr. Pepper, he can't come. But this is a reference to a Fansville commercial. Corey, you don't watch college football, so you're not familiar.
I have no idea what's going on right now.
Well, but apparently Hunter Dickinson's schools that are considered targets, like he hasn't said this, are Georgetown, Virginia, and Maryland.
After all of the crap that he has talked about Maryland, I can't see it.
I can't see it either.
See it.
But all of the crap he's talked about Maryland has been rooted in, you could have had me and you didn't get me because you didn't care enough. And we're all like, dude, we would have been glad to have you. It's not our fault that Turgeon didn't recruit you enough or whatever. And Turgeon's not here anymore.
Yeah.
So that would I would.
Turgeon not being here has not seemed to quell his thirst for crapping on Maryland.
Right, but he has sung the praises of Kevin Willard on his podcast that he does with Marty Mush and Jordan Bohannon, two other guys that I can't
Marty
stand.
Mush?
Well, we shall see.
Yes,
it'll be interesting to see if he ends up at Maryland.
I booed Hunter Dickinson fiercely.
Vociferously?
Yes, not as loud as Sasquatch, but loudly. I when they called his name in the starting lineup, I was like, boo! But everybody in the crowd was booing him and all this stuff.
He's a fellow DeMatha alum.
I know. I don't care. But if he decided to come to Maryland, I would be like, hell yeah, let's go. Like, he'd be my best friend. Like, he'd be my favorite dude ever. I was like, I don't care if he's doing weird stuff and acting like a jerk on the floor. He's playing for us now, so it's all good.
This is what being a fan is all about.
Yes. It's like Draymond Green. Like, if you like the Warriors, you like Draymond. If you don't like the Warriors, you hate him.
Yeah. Also, some other, I guess, stag news. Two coaches are apparently in line for the American University job. One of them is Mike Jones, class of 91. Very good. Former DeMatha head coach up until just 2 years ago when he left to become the associate head coach at Virginia Tech, which
and he was replaced by Mike Jones.
Yep, serving in that role for 2 years. Mike Jones III, now the DeMatha head coach. But also Dwayne Simpkins, and I don't remember what year he graduated, but apparently he is also in consideration for the American University job. But hopefully it winds up with one of the two DeMatha alums. Both of them doing good things.
Nice.
Evan Key also. Evan, you remember Evan Key?
Yes.
Yeah, fellow 2008 alum. I forget.
And fellow Evan.
I can never remember the name of the school that he's at, but he is a head coach in college basketball on either the D2 or D3 level, and I believe they won their conference tournament.
Nice.
Oh,
Yeah.
bring home some hardware. Very nice.
Yeah.
Sounds like good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. So I guess we're about done, unless I'm missing something else, which is likely. Honestly,
You're missing something.
What did I miss?
Kind of big, but we've talked about it a lot. Your boy Lamar Jackson requested a trade.
Oh, that happened this
Yeah.
week. And, okay.
Well, we found out about it this week.
We
Apparently
found out.
It happened almost an entire month ago.
We found out.
But we found out this week.
Yes.
Yeah. It's been a mess, right? Everybody has egg on their face. They might even have egg casserole on their face. I learned that was a thing recently. Yeah, it's a complete disaster. Just stupidity on all fronts. All right, Steve Bisciotti on down. Y'all messed up. And Lamar Jackson, what are you doing? Right? Like, why don't you have an agent? This could have been handled a long time ago. On Lamar's side by not having an agent, and on the Ravens side by not trying to extend him after the 2019 season. So it's stupid is as stupid does, and y'all deserve each other now. 'Cause it's a mess.
I think that it's reasonable to say, though, regardless of what we think about Lamar's decision not to hire an agent, he is currently in a position where he holds the cards.
Yes.
That is not something that is good for Baltimore, obviously, because
they hold the money.
Yeah, they hold the money, but I think they need Lamar more than Lamar needs their money.
Oh, well, yeah, because, again, we saw how the Ravens played without Lamar. They don't win.
Yes, and as it's been pointed out, this is beyond just a holdout situation where it's like, oh, we're worried about him not showing up for games. He's the quarterback, and you hired a new offensive coordinator. Mm-hmm. You need the quarterback to be present immediately. He needs to be there for every OTA, for training camp, for every meeting, for every tag up with the wide receivers, for every Zoom call. The quarterback needs to be present. And as long as Lamar isn't being paid, he will not be present. And every moment that he's not there will compromise the Ravens season in some way. And so the Ravens not only have to take care of this, they have to take care of it urgently. They can't wait till September to do this. They've got to do this now. They need to
take care of it yesterday.
Yeah, so at this point, because again, how many quarterbacks that were star quarterbacks made it to free agency in their primes? Did I miss anybody?
Yeah.
It's never happened. So you guys willing to be the first to let a 26-year-old MVP walk away? Mm-hmm. Because, what you're saying, if you don't give him what he wants, and if what he wants is $50 million every year for the next 5 years, guaranteed, then what you're saying is you feel like it would be a mistake to give him that. Not, this is unprecedented, that would be a mistake.
This guy's not the right guy to give that much money to.
Yeah, you are saying that would be an error of judgment versus the alternative of he doesn't work here anymore and we don't have a quarterback. That is an insane viewpoint. If you feel that way, which is why I firmly believe that this is the NFL as a whole is rebelling against Lamar Jackson more so than the Ravens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. There's 30 other owners that are also in on it. So yeah, it's been terrible. But anyway, any shout outs before we get out of here and I do the podcast wrap up little thing?
You got anything, Corey?
No. Oh, wait, you asked for shout-outs?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I didn't realize we were already on that.
That's what I said.
Well, yes, I do have a shout-out.
Okay, well, then let's hear it.
I want to shout out Kiava Martinez. She was promoted to Chief Sales Officer for the Las Vegas Raiders this week. I believe she is she has the highest position in any NFL team for a black woman across the NFL now.
Nice.
So congratulations to her on getting that promotion, and I mean, congratulations to all the women who are, just continuing to break barriers throughout the NFL. There's a lot of progress that still needs to be made with a lot of teams, but we're seeing more and more women getting opportunities in front office jobs, high-level front office jobs. We're seeing more and more women getting opportunities at the coaching level across the NFL, and it's really good to see.
Absolutely. Okay, I guess a shout out that I'm going to make up on the fly here. Shout out to Tom Brady because he bought a piece of the Raiders, right?
I believe he did.
He got
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, he got a little piece of the Raiders. So, wonder if he'll finagle his way to play for them like that was supposedly the plan for the Dolphins. He can reunite.
Might happen.
He could reunite with his boy McD and take Jimmy Garoppolo's job again. Wouldn't that be something? So, hell yeah, go for it, Tommy. We'd love to see it.
The Raiders.
Hopefully, Magic Johnson's group gets the.
That's
the
why I
Washington
did. That's
deal.
why I didn't shout him out because
it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
And I don't. We're knocking on wood
I
here.
appreciate the attempt, but you'll
Right.
get the shout when it's
Y'all will
close.
be
Right.
back on the narcotic again.
No.
Riding down to Ashburn
I-
for training camp and
I never
I
did that
will-
even when I liked
going to
them.
Woodbridge or
right.
wherever where the stadium's going to be.
I will.
Fredericksburg.
I will allow the door to be open a slight crack if he takes over, but I'm gonna need to actually see some things change before I jump back in bed with the Commanders.
Manders.
Manders.
I will be happy for them when they have success if Dan's not there. But you won't see me buying their gear or obsessively following them. I'm done.
You're not going to get a Major Tuddy costume.
No. Like, this is a situation. Just because the ex has reformed her ways doesn't mean that I'm going to go back to her. Like, congratulations. You're a better person. I'm glad for you. But we're done.
To be fair, like you actually have another team, so like you're like
I've moved on.
Yes, you've moved on.
I was already
for
cheating
Me,
the whole time. like,
Jesus.
like, if anything, you were the side piece. So,
I have gone over to the Lions, but I'm not 100% sure that it's not a rebound relationship.
you're flirting
you know?
a little bit. You're
So,
having a fling with
you
the
know,
Lions.
I'm very seriously considering buying an Amon-Ra St. Brown jersey.
Well, he's awesome.
He is.
Like,
but I wouldn't get it if I'm not a Lions fan.
Becoming a Lions fan sounds insane, though, man.
Is it an upgrade over the Manders?
Like that.
though?
That's like meeting a chick that came out of rehab and seems super
Let's
cool
see.
now, but
Manders,
she's one slip
Man
away.
Campbell. Manders, Man Campbell. I think I'll go with Man Campbell right now.
You hated Man Campbell.
I
when
did.
He got hired.
I thought
and he
I
won
didn't
you
think
over.
It wasn't so much I hated him. I just didn't think he would actually be any good as a coach. But it turns out he's pretty good as a coach, and he's an awesome dude.
Yeah, he's great, and he's a guy that's easy to root for.
Yes,
too, just 'cause,
exactly. Like it's so easy to root for him.
yeah, love me some Man Campbell.
The problem would be like if he ever leaves or they fire him at some point in the future. Like, am I still going to be with the Lions? I don't know.
Yes, that's the
I
point.
Don't know.
You
Like,
could bring
tough.
Matt Patricia back.
It's tough.
again, you're relying on this one quality feature. Like your ex she's in AA and she found a great sponsor. If that sponsor moves somewhere else and she falls off the wagon, you're not going to want to be with her anymore. These are very morbid analogies at the end of the show. I've had a rough week.
Alrighty. I'm going to shout out Fun Spot America Atlanta for finally opening new roller coaster Air Force One today. And looking on Instagram, apparently it's awesome. So, don't know when I'm going to get back to Fayetteville, Georgia, but, it could happen. So yeah, I guess that will do it for this week. Let's see, if you've made it this far into this podcast, go ahead and smash that subscribe button so you'll be notified right away when we record a new episode. And go ahead and leave us a review as well. And then reach out to us if this podcast is not on your podcatcher of choice. We are on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, pretty much wherever your pods are cast.
And of course, YouTube, where we stream live.
And
episodes
YouTube,
today.
where we're streaming live. Do we have any YouTube comments, by the way?
We do not
Get
tonight.
anything? Nothing today. All right. Let's see. Twitter. You can follow all of us on Twitter at SportsBallers18. You usually find me talking to myself on there every now and then. Just making fun of me running slow or whatever. Follow Corey on Twitter at Corey Puffett. Follow Eric on Twitter at Quagmire67. Follow me on Twitter at Evan_Ash13. You should like our Facebook page. You should like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube as well. And I guess that will do it, unless there's been any late-breaking Woj bombs.
No Woj bombs. The only thing, I guess, let me get a quick look at the LSU game, see where they are in the third quarter. About halfway through the third quarter, and Virginia Tech has opened it up. They're up by 12. So
wow.
it's looking like I might not catch Evan.
Oh, no. That's too bad.
What a shame.
That's too
Well,
bad.
but it looked like LSU jumped out to a big lead, and then
Well, they did.
Virginia Tech
Yeah, but
battled
halfway
back.
through the second quarter, they were up by like 9.
Well.
And then Virginia Tech was up by 2 at halftime, and now they're up by 12.
Ouch.
So I'll turn that on as soon as we're done here.
All right.
Yeah. Marlins lead the Mets 1-0, and White Sox lead the Astros 1-0. So, anyway, for Corey and Eric, I'm Evan. This has been the Sports Ballers Podcast. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will talk